You can help me give me the mic. Step away from the microphone. I want to talk about the Imagination Fund. I don't have any trivia questions because it's not trivial. The Imagination Fund is the way that we raise money for this organization. But before I do that, one quick announcement. The meeting scheduled for this appointment for this evening has been canceled because she has to get her early flight back. So those who are going to be sitting in on that meeting, you feel free to make other arrangements. Now, I was remiss in stating one of the vehicles that we use to raise money for the Imagination Fund is our bid for equality, which will be taking place in the fall. I have two wonderful young ladies in the back helping me, Michelle and Chacon, of recent fame in the Federation. Colorado, here in the training center there, much like the LCB. They'll be back at that table looking for you guys to come sign up because what we want to do is make it easy for you. The bid for equality is when we have an online auction. All of the affiliates are participating actively by providing gifts, baskets, trips. Some of the items that are listed in this presidential report, which is an outstanding presidential report, sir, as always. So we're wanting our affiliate presidents to start on those baskets. But in the meantime, we want you guys to be ready to actively participate. So what you do is go back to the back table. We'll take some information from you. We'll set up your account so that once the auction goes live, you'll know what's out there. You'll know how to bid. You'll be the first one to get that pearl necklace or diamond earrings or fur coat. So we want to make it easy for you to participate, get something out of this, and also raise money for the Imagination Fund. Remember, without the Imagination Fund, we can't continue to change the lives of blind people the way we do. We cannot continue to impact the education of blind children in a real dynamic fashion. We can't affect the quality of life of our blind seniors. And as we move forward into this new era with a new focus on employment, we want to create things in that arena as well. Again, please help us with the Imagination Fund. In addition to the funds that Dr. Miles is reporting, there are online contributions still coming in, so I encourage you all to continue to call home. And those of you who are listening via the screen, encourage everyone to text to the number 41444, the keyword NFB14, a space, and the amount of their pledge, and we'll make sure we get more donations to continue to change what it means to be blind, imagining a future full of opportunity and transforming those dreams into reality. Thank you, Dr. Mao.
Everybody learning a lot, having a good time this morning was historic. Dr. Pare, I can't tell you how much I've learned from you and benefited from my relationship with you. And I look forward to another 10 or 20 or 30 years working with you. I look forward to supporting the new president, President-elect Rick Bono. And the other thing that really struck me this morning, Dr. Pare, you have done an incredible job nurturing each one of us, but nurturing an incredible board of directors. I want to say that I'm just awed by the strength and the depth and the knowledge that we have in our leadership, and I'd like to give them a round of applause. The Advocacy and Policy Department is responsible for NFB Newsline, governmental affairs, and public relations. Here is a brief review of some of that activity. NFB Newsline is the largest and most successful audio newspaper service anywhere in the world. It is available in 46 states, plus the District of Columbia. We have over 105,000 subscribers, 343 newspapers, 43 magazines, TV listings, job listings, advertisements, and English and Spanish language content. Publications are available over the phone, via email, as an iPhone app, on the internet, or for download to a variety of digital devices, including the NLS Digital Talking Book Player. Since the 2013 convention, NFB Newsline subscribers have enjoyed over 38 million minutes of news, made over 2.1 million calls, received over 2.2 million email messages, and accessed over 6.4 million newspapers. At last year's convention, we announced a collaboration with AccuWeather to provide emergency weather alerts. This service has been expanded to include a full weather forecast system. NFB Newsline subscribers now have the ability to get their full weather forecast, both on the telephone system and the NFB Newsline app. The weather system also includes the time of sunrise, sunset, and other things such as the current temperature, wind speed, real temperature field, air quality, and the wind, pollen, and grass indexes. Let's hear it for Newsline. We do not accept these low expectations, and that is why we fight, and that is why we speak out. No matter how many times we are told that our opinions and our aspirations do not matter, we will not give up. No matter how we will live the lives we want. This is what we believe, and this is what we will do. We will not let anyone, including the United States Senate, give up on our dreams. Now, I want to go through and have Rose and Lauren and Jessie talk about our issues in more detail. We're going to begin with Rose Sloan, and she's going to talk about the executive order and some minimum wages. Here is Rose Sloan.
For those of you who have not yet had a chance to meet me, I started my job at the National Center this past September. 5 years ago, when I began my undergraduate program in social policy at Northwestern University in Illinois, I knew I wanted to be an advocate for policy at the national level. Attending my first Washington seminar in 2011 only sealed the deal for me. Going to Washington and talking to members of Congress is fun. 9 months into the job, and I still love it. And I plan on loving it for a very long time. My favorite part of the job is when I learn that yet another member of Congress has decided that he or she is going to sign on as a co-sponsor to H.R. 831, the Fair Wages for Workers with Disabilities Act. Now, I have gotten this information in many different ways. Sometimes it's as simple as getting an email from legislative aides of different offices from members of Congress. Sometimes I check Thomas and I'm pleasantly surprised to see that the number has increased. But my favorite way to be informed that yet another member of Congress believes that it is unfair for people to be paid sub-minimum wages is when you, the Federationists, email me and let me know that your member of Congress is going to be signing on to H.R. 831. But let's take a step back for a second. Yeah, I actually did say that right now, in 2014, people with disabilities can be paid less than the minimum wage. But we are going to change that. We have introduced H.R. 831, the Fair Wages for Workers with Disabilities Act. This will repeal Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act. This antiquated law says that entities can pay people with disabilities less than the minimum wage. H.R. 831 will phase this out over a 3-year period. We, the National Federation of the Blind, have been working towards fair wages for blind Americans for many years. I am honored that I have been handed the reins on this very important issue, and I would be amiss if I didn't take the time to express my appreciation to my role models who set the stage for me. Specifically, I would like to thank Mr. Anil Lewis for being my go-to person on this issue. His passion for the topic is contagious, and there is no question he can't answer regarding this issue. I would also like to thank Dr. Maurer for offering me this opportunity. Finally, yes, Dr. Maurer definitely deserves applause. Finally, I must say thanks to Dave Meyer, Patty Chang, and the entire Illinois affiliate who have been my cheerleaders and my rock from the beginning. Thank you. hit the ground running. On my third day in the office, I was already making appointments to visit with members of Congress. The next week, Congresswoman Kathy McMorris-Rodgers from Washington declared that she was going to co-sponsor H.R. 831. Soon after, go ahead, the Rules Committee Chairman, Congressman Pete Sessions from Texas, also declared his support. Now, it is no coincidence that these two members signed on to H.R. 831. In addition to them, our sponsor, Congressman Greg Harper from Mississippi, all have children with disabilities. They understand in a real way that they don't want their children to be paid less than the minimum wage, and they wouldn't want to see any other American be paid less than the minimum wage because they have to train people with even the most severe disabilities how to be productive citizens. I learned about a man who has an intellectual disability and who uses a wheelchair and is illiterate, but yet he is still being paid the minimum wage because he loves to shred papers. It's a win-win situation. He has a micro business in which businesses hire him to shred the paper, and then the businesses are also happy because they no longer have to waste time shredding their paper. Their employees can be effective and more productive because they don't have to do that task anymore. And that's just one example. As we rolled into November, we had many affiliates participate in our delivery of our Change.org petition to Goodwills throughout the nation. Our petition has over 170,000 signatures. We got the point across. There were even newspaper articles written about the event. Goodwill executives throughout the country repeatedly told us that it is a local decision whether or not to pay people with disabilities sub-minimum wages. And guess what? 2/3 of Goodwills actually pay all of their employees the minimum wage or more. We are especially encouraged by organizations such as the Goodwill of Northern New England. Their website says, and I quote, "The Goodwill of Northern New England supports public policy initiatives that align with our commitment to always meet or exceed minimum wage for all workers." So we've been taking other steps too. We've not only been gaining co-sponsors on H.R. 831, but I'm happy to report that we have over 75 other organizations who agree with us that 14C is absolutely wrong. As many have already said, but it is definitely worth repeating, on February 12, 2014, President Barack Obama announced that he would be issuing an executive order. And in this executive order, all federally contracted service providers would be receiving $10.10 an hour starting on January 1st, 2015, and this includes people with disabilities who used to be paid under 14C. I thank each of you who wrote President Obama and Secretary Pare and told them how important it was for us to be included. We did this, guys. This was us, so well done. The executive order gave Ms. Carrie DeSantis the courage to speak out. Ms. DeSantis is the CEO of an organization called Melwood, a community rehabilitation program that employs over 700 individuals with disabilities. She said, quote, "When I became the organization's CEO almost a year ago, I ended the practice of paying workers with disabilities less than the minimum wage despite the 14C certificate program," end quote. Melbourne was able to transform their business model in just a year. H.R. 831 gives nonprofits 3 years to transition. Even though Melwood has a 14C certificate, they have decided that it is wrong to pay people with disabilities less than the minimum wage. This is just one example of entities doing the right thing, but we can't count on all 14C certificate holding entities to do the right thing, and that's why we need to pass H.R. 831. In the spring, a resolution was dropped in the California legislature that urges the United States Congress to phase out and eventually repeal Section 14C of the Fair Labor Standards Act. I am happy to announce that this resolution has already passed out of the Assembly in the California legislature and has since moved on to the Senate. On June 25th, just last week, it passed the relevant committee in the Senate of the California legislature, and we are eagerly awaiting for it to get to the floor on the Senate. So congratulations to California. Hopefully we'll get this done. As outlined in this report, we are making great strides to ensure that Americans with disabilities are paid the fair wages we deserve. I thank each and every one of you for allowing jobs such as mine to exist, and I also thank each of you who have contacted your member of Congress in some way, shape, or form. I can email and visit the offices of national legislators, but only you, the constituents, can truly make legislators care about issues that you care about. At the beginning of this report, I mentioned that gaining new co-sponsors is my favorite part of the job. I have experienced this 94 times. We have 94 co-sponsors on HR 831. Now this is good. Every once in a while it's good to give ourselves a pat on the back. But we need more, guys. We have to get more. And I challenge you to get this bill up to 100 co-sponsors by July 26th, the anniversary of the ADA. 6 more. Let's do it. Who's with me? Now, when you email your members of Congress, if you email the legislative aides, please CC me on those emails. And I ask you to do this because then we can have a dialogue between you, me, and the legislative aide. You being the constituent, me being able to answer any questions that they may or may not have, and then the legislative aide who has the power to get a member of Congress onto the bill. If you ever have any questions, email me or call me. You all know the national office number, so I look forward to hearing from you. No one does it like us. Together, we will pass HR 831, and we will ensure that we too are ensured the economic independence that every other working American enjoys every day. Thank you.
Here is Lauren McCartney.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to start out by saying that I'm so glad Rose is on the team, partly because she's really smart and fun, also because it's a little easier to share clothes with her than with Jessie. She's being another baby on the team, so. But I am here to give a Teach Act update, and so, for starters, can you all remind me, what does the Teach Act stand for? Alright, that was alright. We'll do it together. Ready? Technology, education, accessibility in college, and higher education. Alright, great. And what does the bill do? It creates guidelines. Okay, what does the bill create? Alright, so yes, quick reminder. The bill calls on the Access Board to create voluntary accessibility guidelines for electronic instructional materials used in post-secondary education, and then incentivizes college and universities to only use technology that conforms to those guidelines with a safe harbor for litigation. And the reason we need this bill is because the overwhelming majority of electronic instructional materials, so learning management systems, lab software, PDFs, ebooks, I can go on and on, they're mostly inaccessible even though it's easy to make them accessible and the law calls for schools to only use accessible things. And we know the reason for this disconnect is there's no criteria to facilitate that. And so this bill creates that missing criteria. And it does it in a way that stimulates the market, facilitates the mandate, reduce costs, reduce lawsuits. It does all of that without creating any new requirements for schools or any mandates on technology companies. So there's nothing to dislike. I said it at Washington seminar, and I'll say it again, there are no cons to this bill. It's a no-brainer. And so consequently, we have 48 co-sponsors in the House. Which for a new bill, that's great. We have Republicans like Hoffman thanks to your advocacy, that the Change.org petition for the Teach Act has over 160,000 signatures across the country, and is one of the most successful legislative campaigns that Senate ever had. We've had the same kind of success in the Senate. We have 6 co-sponsors, and I know that sounds small, but they are one good combo of people. We have Senator Hatch from Utah, who is a senior. Senator Warren from Massachusetts, who is a freshman. We have Ayat from New Hampshire. We have Bennett from Colorado. And just recently, everybody says that people on Capitol Hill can't get along. Just recently, at the same time, we got 2 new co-sponsors. We got Senator Mackey from Boston and Senator Marco Rubio, the Tea Party Charlotte. Those 2 people came on at the same time, so that tells you something about how popular this is. Just 2 weeks ago, Senator Harkin's staff contacted us. 2 years ago, I showed them this bill and they said, you guys need to go back and rework it. It's not strong enough. It doesn't do enough. 2 years later, they contacted us. They wanted us to come in and take a look at the higher education reauthorization draft. They took the Teach Act verbatim and put it in that bill and dropped it last week. We've gotten press, and on USA Today, we've had op-eds published in the Boston Globe, the front page of the Salt Lake Tribune, Inside Higher Ed. We have support from every major disability group in the country. We have AAPD, NAD, NICL, Hearing Loss, ACD, AFP, our partner AAP, even the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. The same group that tried to defeat the CRPD officially endorses the Teach Act. So you might be asking them, why isn't it law yet? Why hasn't it passed? It's so great. Well, number one, this is a Republican Congress and there is a stigma against education issues. It's mostly based on misunderstanding. So if we can get to those offices, we can win them over, and we're doing that, but we need to do it better. A lot of the Republicans right now in Congress are new, and we need to build relationships with those offices if we're going to sit down in front of them and try to get them to see how great the bill is. Second, sometimes people just object for the sake of objecting. Some people are just difficult. I know it's a shock that politicians might be difficult, but some of them are. They give all sorts of goofy reasons. There's this question about the schools, very intense concern about the schools. What do the schools think? Would this inconvenience them? We heard they might not like it. Here's my favorite. We've decided not to co-sponsor at this time. It's like, we ask that you please bear with us. I don't know what it means. It's not a reason. We're still reviewing. It's a 4-page bill. We're talking to people. People magazine, that's a little vague. Talking to people. I don't know who we're talking to, but we just have to have patience and win them over. But what we really need is more than patience, is persistence and passion. Because the truth is, no matter how good this bill is, it's not going to pass itself. stand up. All right. I'm gonna play. That's a lot of people, guys. I'm gonna tell you the lyrics and I want you to repeat them because this is what needs to be in your head and your heart. If we're gonna pass this bill, if we're gonna get through college, if we're gonna get through life with people telling you that you have to settle. So please repeat after me. I ain't settling.
I ain't settling.
Just getting by.
Just getting by.
I've had enough so-so
I've had enough so-so
for the rest of my life.
for the rest of my life.
I'm tired of shooting too low.
I'm tired of shooting too low.
I'm gonna raise the bar high.
I'm gonna raise the bar high.
Just enough is not enough this time.
Just enough is not enough this time.
I'm not settling for anything less than everything.
I'm not settling for
I want everybody to get up. Can you start clapping, please?
All right, here's Jessie Hartle talking about space available.
Good afternoon. I want to take a quick moment on behalf of the advocacy and policy team. Rose, Lauren, John, and I have the opportunity to come before you every year. I want to recognize the members of our team who don't have that opportunity to speak to you. That's Scott White, Dijah Burley, Bob Watson, Bill Jacobs, Terry Lynn Bolton, Chris Danielson, Jessica Free, Lorraine Robley, and Maya Jones. All of these people are very, I pledge to participate actively in the efforts of the National Federation of the Blind to achieve equality, opportunity, and security for the blind, to support the policies and programs of the Federation, and to abide by its Constitution. This is the pledge of the National Federation of the Blind. There are two words that make our pledge more than just words on a page. Those two words are participate actively. The National Federation of the Blind stands up and actively participates in changing what it means to be blind in America. 50 years ago, Dr. Tenbrook spoke during the banquet of the National Convention, and it described what Federationism means. And in part, he said that Federationism is an indispensable means of collective action, the symbol of common bond among the blind. Federationism is a tool of political and social action, an anvil on which to hammer out the programs and policies, projects, and platforms that will advance the mutual welfare and security of the blind as a group. It is the restoration of pride, the bestowal of dignity, and the achievement of identity. An opportunity to demand for the conferral of rights too long withheld and hopes too long deferred. Federationism is a dedication, a commitment of the mind and heart, an act of faith, and an adventure of spirit, which issues a call to greatness and a summons to service on the part of all those who volunteer to enter its ranks. Dr. Tenbrook's words describe the essence of the Federation philosophy. Those in this room hold that philosophy, and we know it to be take no stand on our issues. An object at rest will remain at rest unless acted upon by another object. An object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an object of greater force. Lauren, Rose, and I need the full power of the Federation to act as that force which will redirect those members who think they know what the blind need, and to energize those members who are inactive to follow the voice of the blind, that is the voice of the National Federation of the Blind. The right to access information is a fundamental right. However, most often, permission by rights holders to reproduce published works in accessible formats has traditionally been denied or has taken far too long to acquire. Today in the United States of America, blind people are denied access to published works around 95% of the time, and we are a leader throughout the world. For blind people in developing nations, access to published works occurs less than 1%. The National Federation of the Blind began to work with the World Blind Union to develop treaty language that will solve the book famine around the world. Scott LaBar has carried the torch of the Federation philosophy, taking on those who challenge the need for such a treaty. On October 2nd, 2013, the United States of America became a signatory of the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works to persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise disabled. This treaty will allow for the cross-border sharing of materials in accessible formats. Currently, the State Department and the Patent and Trade Office are working to develop the treaty package that will be transmitted to the Senate to begin the ratification process. Once this takes place, it will be up to us, the members of the National Federation of the Blind, to secure the 67 Senate votes needed for ratification of this important piece of equality. But I thought you should know what others are saying about our chances to succeed on the Marrakesh Treaty. They are saying that no disability treaty will be ratified if it isn't ratified in the next 6 weeks. They are saying that some members of the Senate will never vote to ratify a treaty that deals with the United Nations. They are saying that the Republicans take over the Senate this fall. We shouldn't even try. They say that the blind don't have enough clout on Capitol Hill to get this done. Stroll with me down memory lane for a moment, if you will. In 1995, the House of Representatives was set to vote on a careers bill. It was going to the floor and they said, it's too late, you can't stop it. In the early 2000s, we were told that we wouldn't be able to get access to materials for students in K through 12. When the House Appropriations Committee voted to underfund the digital conversion of the Talking Book program of the NLS, we were told that we would never be able to increase the funding enough to keep the program on time for the digital conversion. We've been told that we wouldn't be able to get legislation through the Congress that would require hybrid and electric vehicles to make a sound that will allow blind people safe and independent travel. And most recently, we were told that we would never be able to change the language contained in Section 511. I don't know about you, but I think we have a pretty good track record of doing things Make no mistake, though, this effort will require the active participation of every member of the Federation. My question to you is, are you ready to get access to published works? Are you ready to stand up and take on those who say this treaty is not necessary? Are you ready to show the world the power of the collective action of the National Federation of the Blind? I have good news for you. We don't need to wait for the ratification package to go to the Senate. We have an opportunity to teach the Senate something about our power right now. The Senate has been a roadblock to equality for our blinded veterans as it relates to participation in the Space Available program. Last summer, I stood before you shortly after the United States House of Representatives passed its version of the fiscal year 2014 National Defense Authorization Act, which included our language to include 100% service-disabled veterans to the list of those who can participate in the program. Our Senate leader on this issue, Senator John Tester of Montana, filed an amendment to the Senate version of the defense bill. It contained the same language that the House included in its bill, and Senator Tester was joined on his amendment by Senators Baucus of Montana, Senator Heller of Nevada, and Senator Chambliss of Georgia. However, that amendment was not allowed to be debated during Senate consideration of the defense bill. In fact, Senate leadership said that no senator could offer an amendment on the floor. Because of this procedural decision, Senator Tester was not able to get matching language in the Senate bill. Given the difference in language as its justification for its action, the conference committee stripped our space available language out of the final bill passed on December 19th. Well, you know what they say, sometimes you may lose a battle, but when it comes to equality for the blind, we will never, never lose the war. On January 4th, 2014, we renewed our efforts to build co-sponsor support for H.R. 164. On that day, the bill had 171 co-sponsors listed in support of extending the Space Available program to those who became disabled defending our liberties. On May 22nd, that number had increased to 233 members of the House of Representatives. And on May 22nd, for a second time, the House of Representatives voted to include Congressman Bilirakis' language from H.R. 164 as part of its National Defense Authorization Act. It is now time for the Senate to feel the force of the National Federation of the Blind. We must stand up and defend the rights of blinded veterans, just as they stand up and defend the rights of blind students through enactment of the TEACH Act, just as they defend the rights of those who are being paid less than the federal minimum wage when they advocate for the Fair Wages for Workers with Disabilities Act. If your senator is not a co-sponsor of S346 at this time, we need your help to get them signed on to this legislation. Together we speak as one voice in the National Federation of the Blind. Together we all go up or we all go down. In everything that matters, we are one. Together we will be victorious. And together we will ensure that disabled veterans take their seats on space available flights. I pledge to you to participate actively in the efforts of the National Federation of the Blind to achieve equality. Equality in the workplace by scourging the disgraceful language contained in Section 14C from the history books of American law. To achieve equality for disabled veterans.